Hello, Jennifer Villarreal here. This is the Sales from the Heart Show, the place where business meets heart and soul. And today I have the one and only.
Hi, everyone. This is Rocio Vallejo here. Welcome.
All right. So, Rocio, what do you think we should talk about today?
I think we should talk about the one thing that everybody wants to talk about, but feels uncomfortable actually talking about it. So, money.
Sex?
Ah!
Actually, I think more people are comfortable talking about sex than they are about money.
I agree.
So we're going to keep it real as we always do here, and we're going to talk about some money beliefs, the challenges that we have, the mindset beliefs that we have around money, and how that ties in with our business as well as relationships. What do you think?
I think that's great. I think that most people have like the next financial level that they would like to reach. And then we all have these beliefs around money that kind of keep us from getting there.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is a great topic.
Yeah. So what do you think one of those beliefs are that people have around money?
Okay, so I think one of those is definitely I'm not good with it. I'm just not good with money. I'm not good with handling it. I know that used to be one of my beliefs. I think it was one of the things we first spoke about I brought up when we talked about money was I'm just not good with it. I never have been.
Mm-hmm.
But that's changed.
So being really carefree with it or not wanting to deal with it.
Not wanting to deal with it, I think is a huge one. I think a lot of people tend to do that. So even if your bills are coming, your bills are coming in the mail and you don't even look at them. You don't even open the mail. You just kind of just keep setting that aside, or you open them and you're only paying attention to what your minimum is, but not really wanting to deal with it, avoiding it.
Yeah, so avoiding getting the mail. I know I used to do that for a long time. You wouldn't ever get anything pleasant in the mail, right? It was those bills. And it wasn't necessarily because I didn't have the finances to pay those at that particular time. It was more so I just didn't want to deal with it.
Right.
And it was just something that I thought would go away if I didn't look at it and if I didn't acknowledge it, but obviously that's not true.
Right.
Okay, so one of those beliefs is just not being good with money. What are some of the other ones before we dive deeper?
Sure. So I'm not worthy.
I'm not worthy of money?
I'm not worthy of money, or the services that I'm providing aren't up to par.
Okay.
So I don't feel comfortable, asking for X amount of dollars. I think that's one. Money's evil. There's absolutely nothing spiritual or anything good that comes out of giving or receiving money.
So that's the third belief.
Right.
Okay.
And then I think we touched on a couple of the other ones. So
maybe feeling guilty about charging for services for money.
Mm-hmm.
Our beliefs around that, or wanting to charge too much.
Right.
And not really providing that value around it, but thinking that we're entitled to it because we have bills to pay or we have other family emergencies or personal emergencies that come up.
Right.
Yeah, I think those are good for us to
start
with? And dive in with. Okay. Yeah, definitely. So let's get back to we're just not good enough with money. We don't want to know how to handle it. We don't want to handle it. What are some of the things that came to mind for you, Rocio, when you were going through this? Did you know where to start? Did you not even want to start?
I think it was, I did want to start. I was well aware of the fact that I was trying to avoid it altogether. And I would tell myself things like, I'm going to start keeping track of, what I'm spending, or I'm going to start really like logging and I'm going to create some kind of system, to kind of figure out, how much money is actually going out and where I'm spending my money. I didn't know what that system was. Mm-hmm. And then I would put it off and I'd say, I'll start tomorrow. And then tomorrow would come and I'll start tomorrow. And tomorrow just never came.
So the basics of budgeting wasn't there, the consistency of doing it. Your intention was there, but then it faded away.
Definitely.
And what were some of those distractions that kept you from focusing on that?
I think it was fear was definitely one of them, facing my reality. Seeing that I was spending maybe more money dining out than I should have been. And, really seeing the numbers and paying attention to that would mean that, well, I probably couldn't do it anymore. And I don't think I was ready to let that go and other things like it go.
Yeah. A lot of times when I talk to my clients about the basics of budgeting, they think that they're not going to be able to enjoy the things that they're currently enjoying.
Right.
And in reality, what we end up finding is that there is more freedom in knowing you can sleep better at night because you do have every dollar accounted for ahead of time. And so you spend actually on paper first, mapping that out. And it will fluctuate from month to month later down the road as your income starts to increase, right? But let's say you have a lot of debt that you need to pay off, and knowing how long that's going to take to pay that off is really empowering. And so I don't go into too much details regarding budgeting. I have a resource that I plug them into after we get the basics down, but it's really, really important to understand the basics of budgeting. And there's some free tools out there. You can always email us at info@salesfromtheheart.com, and I'd be happy to send those to you. You can always Google some things as well. And the most important thing is implementing that system, getting a process down and having it be consistent. That's key, don't you think?
Definitely. And I think it's really important to kind of rid yourself of all of that that financial chaos that you think that you just carry with you in your head. Because I feel like you can't really be, especially when it's your business. So if I know for a while, especially when we first met, I was having problems with my website, and I had invested so much money in this darn website that keeps coming up.
Here we go back to the website. Everybody thinks that they have to have a website to get started first.
But
with
no,
business.
but really, all this money that I had invested in my website, and it was a flop. I felt like I had been robbed. And so it was very difficult for me to kind of keep focusing and progressing, with my business, because all I kept thinking about was all that money that I had invested, But I think freeing yourself of that financial chaos will really allow you to be present in your business. And then you can only get better from there.
I think the previous mistakes or experiences that we encounter with money will be projected moving forward with how we engage with other people for services, products, etc. And we have to be careful with that. Just because something didn't work in the past doesn't necessarily mean that it's not going to work now. And just because something worked in the past doesn't mean that it's going to work, today. So we have to assess each situation. And I think one of the most important things with that entrepreneurial mindset is we make decisions quickly and we change them slowly. And so making a decision is clear. We have to do that when it comes to our finances. We have to know exactly what's going on. If you need a week to think about purchasing something, then you're probably not really clear with where your finances are. And first and foremost, you need to get that clear. Does that make sense, Rocio?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So the basics of budgeting, you have your different categories. I also like using the envelope system. And if any of you know Dave Ramsey, he's got a great program out there called Financial Peace University. I also teach the basics of that to my clients, and then again have other resources that I can plug them in to really be able to dive deeper, whether it's with financial advisors, a financial coach, etc., that can dive a little bit deeper for your understanding, and that's customized for you. And so when we use the envelope system, we have cash that we don't always carry with us, right? But we have that in an envelope, and we say, okay, we're going to go to the grocery store. I have $200 here in the envelope that needs to last me for the remaining of 2 weeks or whatever it may be. And you only use what's in that envelope. That's it. And
right.
If you get up to the register and you're over $200, well, then guess what? You have to put something back. So it seems pretty strict and confining, but it's actually really empowering, and it helps you make more smart choices and not these spur of the moment type of choices with things.
Right. And I think it's forming the habit.
Exactly.
Right. Because it's definitely something that can be learned.
Right. And then just because your budget, let's say, is $400 a month for groceries, it doesn't mean it's always going to be that, right? You might end up finding that you're able to increase your income because you know exactly what's going on. You're getting more clear. You're being more intentional with your spending. And it's really the behavior, the character that comes through, not only regarding your finances, but in other aspects of our lives.
Right.
Right?
I agree. Yeah.
All right. So should we move on to the second belief?
Yes. So I'm not worthy. I think that one is huge too, especially when you're starting out with your business, thinking that your work or your services, whatever it is you're providing or trying to get out, in the market, isn't up to par yet. So maybe if I have, once I have 10 clients, then I'll feel comfortable charging X amount of dollars. Or,
once I get this certification behind my name,
right.
I've heard that so many times
That's
too.
huge, right?
Or once I give away my services for free for a while, and then I get some testimonials back, then I can start to charge.
Or I tweak my product a little bit, or the website, or the business cards, or
once it's perfect,
right?
Then I can do this, and that's probably one of the biggest traps that you can fall into. One of the things that I want you to remember is that your experience is going to come through and change and adjust as you continue with your business. And the clients that you're serving today are going to be the exact clients that you need to serve. And then a year from now, you're going to have more experience. You're going to have more wisdom that you'll be able to share. And then your client base will probably shift a little bit as well. And then you'll be able to serve those clients. So I think there's no coincidence as to the clients that I worked with a year ago or even 5 years ago versus today. Right. My business model had shifted. I was in corporate world and I was doing coaching here and there. But when I fully launched in 2013 with Sales from the Heart, it just started to flow and connect effortlessly because I took that leap of faith. And so sometimes people ask, well, when is the best time? How do you know? How do you shift from, let's say, corporate into entrepreneurship? Do I have to have XYZ amount of money first? Some people might say, oh, yeah, you want to make sure that you have money in savings for 6 months so you can make that transition. And although I think that there is some advice there, absolutely,
right.
In putting aside money for savings, business savings account as well as personal is very important. I also think that you don't necessarily have to have this huge piggy bank to be able to begin and take that leap of faith. That's really what it's about.
Right, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And so when I started, I was on unemployment. I've shared my story before. I didn't know how it was going to work with my coach, who was about as much as my mortgage payment. I had all these other bills and expenses, but I just said yes. I made the decision and I didn't focus necessarily on the how. And I know it seems counterintuitive of what we're taught. We're taught in the traditional, environment to go to school, get your diploma, get your education, go to work, get your experience, and then you're worth XYZ amount of money after you build that up, those credentials up. And I think in the entrepreneurial world, it's slightly different. And that's what's so great and empowering about it. And we can take our hobbies, we can take our unique gifts and our talents and actually monetize those. And of course, there is a system that we implement to do that.
Right.
But just know that the opportunity is out there for you to begin.
Right. And do you suggest also being flexible? Maybe even, I know that when we started working together, I went and got another job.
You were doing the midnight hustle, right?
I was doing the midnight hustle.
You were working at a restaurant?
Yes, I was bartending. And it was something that, as much as I enjoyed the people that I worked with, I didn't really want to be doing it. It made me very uncomfortable. It was inconvenient as far as, time and having to adjust my schedule accordingly. But I was willing to be flexible because I knew that, I was going to reap the
temporary.
Yeah, it was temporary, and I was definitely going to reap the benefits of it.
Yeah, and then that experience led into something else.
Right.
Which we can't share about just yet.
Right,
closer.
Right. Closer and closer, right.
Yeah, so I think more importantly, it's about taking that leap of faith, using your gifts, being open to the other opportunities that can come your way. And I know it sounds kind of la-la and foofy, right? But there is a process that we implemented as well. We were definitely taking action and making sure that we did that in a consistent process. A lot of people out there as entrepreneurs and they're starting up, I see them grasping from this thing, and going to event after event and grabbing all this information. And really they're not executing one thing fully. So, maybe you need to break that down a little bit and stop trying to do so much to prove your worth. Break it down into one thing at a time and complete that and then go to the next thing. And it's not to say that you can't use all your gifts and you'd like to I don't know, be creative and have multiple interests. I don't mean to narrow that necessarily down, but if you're thinking you're not worthy enough, then you're going to try to overdo it. You're going to try to overcompensate. You're going to go out there and try to chase and convince people how wonderful, your product is, because really you're masking the insecurity that's going on. Does that make sense?
Totally. Would you even go as far as suggesting that maybe people practice asking for money?
Yeah, definitely. I think you'd want to have a system of how you go about presenting your product or service, and you help people make that decision, right? So understanding where the client currently is at, what some of their goals are, and then what maybe are some of the challenges preventing them from getting there. And then how would that turnaround be for them once they do actually achieve that goal of that product, that service? And then that's where you come in and you present your system. And you want to break it down. You don't want to have too many options where people are like, oh my gosh, there's 10 different options here. Which one do I go with? And then that's confusing to them. So I know that's not really the topic of the show today. That's why I'm just giving a general overview. I know we've broken that down in some other shows. And of course, you can always contact us as well. And, I'd be happy to discuss that with you, of how you can break down a specific plan to present your services.
Right.
So does that cover that second belief?
Definitely. And then I think that kind of goes into, we touched on this a little bit, but what we're going to talk about, the fourth belief, having
the third belief?
The third belief.
Money's evil.
Money's evil, yeah. So I've heard that, and it's funny because I know that I've heard before that that a lot of our beliefs are instilled in us as children, right? And I think that's one thing that a lot of us maybe do hear as children is money is the root of all evil.
Or you see your parents working all the time.
Right.
And so you associate work with being something bad, and it destroys families. You hear your parents arguing over money. Mm-hmm. Or think about the time when you first learned about money. How was that experience for you? And what continued to happen after that? Were you forced to save your money and not be able to spend it? Were your parents saying, okay, well, you have to use your money to buy everything that you want? Maybe the initial concept of how it was taught to you made you cry and frustrated you because they didn't break it down in a way that you were able to understand. Or maybe you're repeating some of the habits that your parents have done, whether they've gone into debt or bankruptcy or just being careless about their money, or maybe being very frugal.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. And the thing is you can change that. Those things can be changed. You just need to find the right resources to help you make those changes, to change your frame of thought.
Yeah. And I think we do that a little bit with Sales from the Heart. We don't dive, again, too deep into it. But one of the things that you and I worked on was through connecting through some of those dots, right? Going back, not necessarily via therapy, but understanding where we started getting triggered from some of those things, and then the patterns that we tend to keep repeating, the relationships that we make. And also how we continue to pass on these beliefs to our children, to family members, loved ones, to try to support that belief. Right. And so I would think the other thing is, when it comes to money, there's no coincidence that this is mentioned over 800 times in Scripture, or over 800 scriptures, I believe, regarding money. And so whatever your spiritual belief is, whatever your faith background is, I would encourage you to understand what God really says about money and how that pertains to you. And one of the ways that I break that down is, first and foremost, understanding who you truly work for. That's very, very important, because who you work for is also going to provide for you. And for crying out loud, it says on the dollar bill, "In God we trust," right? And I don't know what God they were referring to, but I know my God is a loving God and very supportive. And when I'm in alignment with what my unique blessings are, things start to come through and the people come together, and it continues to grow from there.
Right. I mean, I know when we started working together, and it's something that you say often, is remember who it is that you truly work for. And I think it took me a while to really understand what that meant.
Besides reading it in the book, right?
Right. But I think how I was able to kind of understand it better was put myself I have children. So for me, I started to look at myself as God's daughter. And everything changed. So, I'm one of God's children, and he'd give me the world if he could, just as I would do for my children. And I don't know, one day I was driving and it just clicked, and I was like, oh, yes, I am worthy. I'm worthy just for that simple reason. You know, I am a child of God, and I am deserving.
Right.
I am more than deserving.
Right. And that's what that cross represents to me. You know, my debts were paid for. And when I understand that, and through my relationship spiritually, it's just, I don't have that guilt anymore for all the times that I was careless with my money, when I was just being really flamboyant with my money, and or thinking that it destroyed relationships, or that it could help relationships. I had to put it in the right context. And I think from understanding deeper about money and pushing past whatever you're resisting about money, that's where the breakthrough happens. That's where the turnaround is. And so we'd have to, assess what that is for you. For everybody, it's slightly something different, but it all has that common denominator.
Right.
And so I absolutely believe we don't necessarily, there's a difference of loving money as well. I don't look at it as something that I absolutely love. It's more so the service behind that, and the exchange and the tokens of appreciation that are sent back through exchanging that dollar.
Right, definitely.
Yeah. All right. So how about this guilty feeling? Right, of charging for our services. Guilt to me is another one of those things where it's separating us from our Creator, right? And it's not in alignment with who we truly are. But we sometimes can go through that, especially if we're feeling that we're not worthy, if we don't have the credentials yet, or maybe if somebody didn't like our service or our product, and we can take that on, not realizing all the others out there that we could be serving.
Right, definitely. And I think again, shifting our thought system. I don't think you should feel guilty about asking for money. I think it's value for value, right? So you're giving, I'm providing you this service and you're paying for it. So there's value there. I think people a lot of times, I know that I thought like this for a while too, where I would feel guilty because I would think, well, because I'm getting money, then you're losing money, especially working with clients that I knew had a budget. And then I felt like I would have to give free, throw in some free stuff, but I didn't have to, because my services, what I'm providing is worth something.
Right.
I'm giving you something of value, and so you are ultimately going to have to pay for it, right?
Exactly. And I think it's really important not to make assumptions about where somebody is financially. Right. Oh, they can't afford it. Well, think about it from this way. What would it cost them if they don't work with you?
Right.
And then with my services, I look at it from a lifelong value standpoint. This is not only going to serve them now, but also the people that they encounter, their friends, their family, strangers, and it's something that they can continue to implement throughout a lifetime. Now, is it their responsibility to do that and to do the work? Absolutely. Do I want to give? Absolutely. And over deliver? Yes, but not at the point of, oh my gosh, it's because of the price point that I'm charging. If anything, it's priceless. Right. And so when we can dive into understanding how to communicate this with people, that's another aspect of it. Where, okay, now we're not feeling guilty about it. Now you want to feel comfortable with how you present your product and service.
Right, definitely.
And again, we want to break that down into a system, break that down in a process that resonates with you, because everybody is going to have a slightly different style in the language that they use and how they present that to somebody. And so we want to make sure that we customize that for each person.
Definitely. I think that helps. I mean, I know that we covered that in one of our coaching sessions, and that really helped, shift things for me.
Yeah, so. And we make some adjustments, we tweak it, and then again, we reevaluate it a little bit later on and say, okay, is this still working for you. And even if you're a master at sales, you might just not see it from the other perspective.
Right.
Or you might have gotten a template from somebody else in another system. But you know what? Have you tweaked it and customized
Made
it
it
for your specific audience, as well as something that's resonating with you?
Right.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So
I think
this was
is
fun.
good. Yeah, definitely.
This is fun. Not as fun of a topic as sex, right? Maybe we'll save that for the next one. Just kidding. It is definitely something, money is a topic that we can dive deeper into. And of course, we're here to serve as a resource for you. So feel free to give us a call at Sales from the Heart. And that offline number would be 773-614-SALE. Or you can also send an email with your questions to info@salesfromtheheart.com. And remember to subscribe to the YouTube channel, Sales from the Heart, or planetaxlive.com.
Right, definitely. I think this was great. I really do. Yeah, I think just I think it was good.
It's empowering to know where your finances are going and how to break that out. And I have to tell you, I resisted it for a long time. And then once I worked with somebody else on doing this as well, because I couldn't do it just for myself.
Right.
A coach still needs a coach. Yes,
Right.
they do. Because then I would say, oh, I can just do it like this time, or oh, I can do it like this that time, or maybe I was doing it wrong, right? And I thought I was doing it correctly. And so having somebody oversee that has been really, really helpful. I'm actually looking forward to my session on that tomorrow.
Right.
So it'll be really nice to do. We'll do a little recap of how this is working out for a few other people as well. And so if you want to get in on that and have those resources sent to you, just make sure to send us an email.
Right, definitely. It's forming the habit.
Yep.
Forming the habit. And then, this was something that I really did not feel comfortable talking about, and I actually had fun talking about it today. So
good. It's very liberating to do that. So we're looking forward to connecting with you.
Yes.
And as always, many blessings to you.
Till next time. Bye, everyone.
Bye.